This is the Awkward Jam Corbin, and today I'm going over Scion, Book 2, Heroes. Scion Heroes is the second stage for Scion characters. Before I went over the Scion pre-visitation characters, which you can find over here. For some people, Hero Tier is where you want to start your Scions off because that's when they start feeling like ancient heroes of legend. I covered more in my previous video about the mechanics, so please check that out if you have any questions. This one's going to be just about the hero template and a little bit of advice and tips for running hero level games. When you have a Scion character that's pre-visitation, once they have their visitation, they become heroic tier, which means they need to fulfill a certain set of criteria. Now, this is stuff that after your visitation, your character can build themselves back up to, or it could be that your pre-visitation character is getting XP and getting to a similar level to be able to become heroic. Big thing is you start off with a calling as pre-visitation, but as a hero, you need 2 additional callings. At least 1 calling has to be from your divine parentage, but you also get 4 additional dots worth of callings. You need to make sure your character has at least 5 knacks. So if they have 5 knacks already, you're fine. But if they only have like 1 or something like that, I think they start with 2. I'm not too sure about that. You just buy up to 5. Now, you need to also make sure that your character has at least 7 dots worth of birthrights as well. And you need to choose your innate purviews. And you also get 2 boons. And you have a legend rating, which is the main thing that heroic scions have, which puts you at a rating of 1 to start off. Legend ratings are used as point generation for legend points that are used to activate your boons. Legend grants you 1 new boon per dot. It also increases the number of active knacks you can have, which starts at 5 at 1 dot. And to raise your legend, you need to complete your short-term, long-term, and ban deeds. Now you have to do this not in a row, but basically you have to complete each deed as a group, as a set, and then you can go on to the next one to complete a new set. Now you can have more short-term and long-term deeds if you haven't finished your ban deed, but that is beside the point right now. I'll continue on. Now, legend can be spent to activate boons, and it is also regained via a few different ways. You can do an action in line with your calling, so if your calling is like being a judge and you judge someone in regards to some sort of action, that is what is known as accepting your fate binding, which means you are going in line with your narrative as a character or as a scion, and following that gains you additional points of legend that you can spend on boons. You can also make an offering to your divine parent or pantheon as a whole. Minor ones can only be done occasionally, but major ones, so long as they are significant, can be done whenever. Virtue is a reflection of the pantheon you are part of. This is a tracker between 2 virtues that are usually opposing. As you move closer to one, you move closer to one rather by following that sort of virtue. So for instance, if you have egotism as a virtue, you will go closer to that if you focus on your personal interests. However, if you decide to sacrifice something to help your friends, you are going to move actually away from that and closer to your kinship virtue. When you reach the end of one side of the virtue tracker, which is only 5 places, 5 tracks, or dots rather, you get the virtuous trait that adds an extra die when you spend your momentum. So instead of getting +1 die, you're getting +2 die on your roll. And also, if you follow your virtue and it causes a setback, you can also generate more momentum. So if you are being very egotistical and you decide to just like leave your friends off to do their own thing while you go and take on the big bad guy of this session 1v1, that would be doing a setback because now you're probably going to be in danger and your other players can't help. So you've just generated some more momentum that other players can spend since it's a shared pool of resource. Now, acting in ways that are in line with the other end of your virtue while you're virtuous means that you are actually going to lose the virtuous trait because, suddenly you were egotistical and attacking this one guy one-on-one because you have a beef with him, but you're going to now help your friends because you realize, oh no, they're going to lose without me over there. Well, now you're going into the kinship realm, and now you aren't adhering to that strict virtue anymore. You're now a mixture, and you're sort of out of sync. If you're watching this around February 2024, I will be running the Storypath Nexus Game Jam for Onyx Path. This will be a way for creators to create new community content for Storypath in Scion, They Came From, and Trinity Continuum in order to help bring the community together in a nice competition, friendly competition, where there are prizes, there's voting, and you will create something that you can put on Storypath Nexus in order to sell and to add to your plethora of portfolio pieces that you can send in to people. Now, boons typically cost 1 legend to activate. The ones in the book seem to only be 1 legend to activate. I have not seen any that are bigger. I assume as you go up in tier from heroic to demigod or to god, they'll cost more, but I just don't know at this point. Now, usually they don't need a die roll and are consistent and reliable to use. They also are an innate divine miracle. Like, there's something that is very potent and powerful and magical, even if it's something subtle. You can inspire someone to start making masterpieces, for instance, and they might not realize that they're being inspired by a godlike being, a hero as it were, but they do know that there's something going on there. even if they think it's not magical. Now, they also have innate abilities attached to them, which can sometimes increase the scale you have. For instance, I believe it is the epic might gives you an extra scale for when you do things like lifting or throwing objects. Now, there are other things that give you immunity to effects within your purview. For instance, I believe if you have the Chaos purview, or boon rather, your innate ability is to basically ignore environmental damage from like hurricanes and other like environmental things associated with chaos. There are other similar effects. It's all down to the specific purview that you're looking at, so you have to go into more detail yourselves if you want to figure out which ones are most interesting for your character. What I would suggest for a new story guide coming into Scion Heroes is that you should really take a step back for a second and ask, should I be playing Heroes first, or should I be playing Origin first as a one-shot to try and get my players up to speed on how the rules are set? It's very simple to just have your characters make a Origin character, a pre-visitation Scion character, and then have them upgrade them to become Hero Scions. So you can do a one-shot, have the visitation happen in that one-shot or at the end of the one-shot, and then say, okay, now you guys have gone up to Hero tier, you're now facing more difficult enemies and doing a lot more heroic things. That being said, I would honestly say you should probably just listen to your players a lot more in this game system. You look at their callings, you look at their purview, their pantheon, their divine parentage, and try and focus in on that. Try and focus on what stories they want to tell, and then you can sort of craft your own story, incorporating that and making it something that not only you enjoy, but also your players do. How would I run the game? I would definitely run the game starting off with them being pre-visitation, but I would have them go up against a sort of Titan spawn cult or some sort of cult in regards to a Titan spawn. And that way my players would effectively have an enemy that they can't go up against, because I was looking at the rules earlier and I found there's a thing called apocalyptic presence that Titan spawns have, which means that lower tier characters can't actually attack them. So this gives my players a enemy that once they become hero tier, they can now face. So now we've upgraded, whereas the players originally saw this character as something godlike, something above them. Now suddenly they are both on the same footing, and they can finally take on this entity in a way that is more interesting and more like getting revenge on someone who has foiled them in the past or has been a pain in their butts for a long time, and now it's time for our revenge. Now we have become more powerful, and we are able to take on this challenge head on. To touch on other things that are also in this book, there are legendary creature templates for players to play as if they want to, which are kitsune, which are fox people. You have satyrs, which are goat people, centaurs, which are horse people, and then you have wolf warriors, which are wolf people. There are also new mortal template paths that I haven't looked too much into. There are prophets and Cassandra, so if you're interested in playing someone who can see the future and no one believes, I believe Cassandra is probably for you. If you'd like to check out another video about Scion, click over here for my overview of the origin rules. There's a lot more mechanical details in that than this video. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.